Okay, so what if I told you there's a kind of hidden code inside all of us? A set of signals that could actually predict our health future. Today, we're going to see how some really simple data, stuff you can get from a basic blood test, and an ancient practice like fasting, might just be the key to, well, to unlocking a whole new way of thinking about our health. All right, let's kick things off with a question. You've got rheumatoid arthritis, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Now, what do these three things, what do they all have in common? I mean, on the surface, they seem totally different, right? One attacks your joints, another your heart, and the last one messes with your metabolism. But it turns out, new research is pointing to one single shared enemy behind the scenes. And that enemy, it's this silent, invisible force called chronic systemic inflammation. Now, when I say inflammation, you're probably thinking of a sprained ankle or a cut, right? That red, swollen, painful stuff. But this is a whole different beast. It's subtle. It's like a slow, low-grade fire burning inside our bodies, day in and day out, without us even knowing it's there. So let's talk about the body's silent alarm. How does this whole invisible process even work? And more importantly, why is it so incredibly crucial that we start paying attention to it? Okay, think of it like this. Imagine a smoke detector in your house that has a low battery. It doesn't blare, it just chirps, constantly, annoyingly. That's kind of what this is. It's this low-grade, persistent hum of an immune system that's just stuck in overdrive, on high alert 24/7. And a ton of research is now showing that this constant state of emergency is directly linked to those big diseases we talked about. So that leads to the million-dollar question, right? If the alarm is silent, if this whole thing is invisible, how in the world are we supposed to hear it? How could we possibly detect this hum before it turns into a full-blown crisis? Well, this is where things get really, really interesting, because some brand new research is showing us how to decode it. We're learning to read something called the inflammation index, which can basically turn that silent hum into something we can actually see and measure. So, say hello to the Systemic Immune Inflammation Index, or SII for short. It's this really clever new marker that gives us an incredible snapshot of what your body's inflammatory and immune systems are up to. But here's the best part, the part that's a total game changer. This isn't some crazy expensive futuristic test. It's calculated from data that's already in a standard everyday blood test. So how does it work? Well, it's actually pretty brilliant in its simplicity. It just looks at the numbers for three super common things in your blood. Your platelets, which help with clotting, your neutrophils, which are kind of like the frontline soldiers of your immune system, and your lymphocytes, another key immune cell. By looking at the ratio between these three, scientists can get this surprisingly clear picture of that hidden inflammation. And take a look at this. This shows you exactly how it works in the real world. You can see here that people with active rheumatoid arthritis, their SII levels are way up here. Compare that to people in remission, and then to healthy individuals. The difference is huge. You can literally see the inflammation right there in the numbers. It's not abstract anymore. I love this analogy. It's like having a weather forecast for your immune system, right? It doesn't just tell you, hey, it's stormy right now. It gives you these clues about the underlying pressure systems, the turmoil that's building up. It gives us a chance to, batten down the hatches before the hurricane actually hits. Okay, so we can measure the problem. That's huge. But now for the really big question. What can we actually do about it? Let's dive into something called the fasting effect. Because this is what it all comes down to, isn't it? It's great to have a weather forecast, but can you actually change the weather? Can we do something to actively lower this inflammation? Well, the research we're digging into today points to one really powerful and, frankly, very accessible tool: fasting. So the studies looked at a couple of popular ways to do this. The first is called alternate day fasting, or ADF. That's pretty much what it sounds like. You alternate between a day of normal eating and a day where you either fast completely or seriously cut back on calories. The other one is time-restricted eating, TRE, which a lot of people do. That's where you only eat within a certain window of time each day, say an 8-hour window. And the results? They're pretty amazing. And listen, this is about so much more than just weight loss. It turns out that when you give your body a regular extended break from the job of digestion, it triggers this whole cascade of awesome benefits. The research shows that both of these fasting methods can seriously tamp down on those key inflammatory signals in your blood, things with names like IL-6 and C-reactive protein. Basically, it helps quiet that constant alarm. And on top of that, it improves your metabolism, helps out your gut bacteria, and yeah, it helps with weight control. All things that help turn down the dial on that systemic inflammation.
All right, so let's start connecting the dots. Let's see what happens when we apply this powerful data directly to the diseases we mentioned at the very beginning.
Okay, look at this number, 75.26%. Just let that sink in for a second. What on earth could that be? That is how accurate the SII marker is at predicting disease activity in people with rheumatoid arthritis. Over 75% accuracy. That is an insane level of insight to get from a simple, accessible blood marker. This is it. This is the data in action, right here. And hey, it's not just for rheumatoid arthritis. This pattern shows up again and again. For RA, you see markers like SII directly tracking with how active the disease is. For type 2 diabetes, they line up with fasting blood sugar levels. And for coronary heart disease, they're linked with the disease even in young adults. The connection is it's undeniable. I mean, don't just take my word for it. Listen to what the researchers themselves said. I'm quoting here. These indices may serve as complementary diagnostic markers and help monitor treatment efficacy and improve prognosis. That just spells it out, right? The potential for this in actual medical practice is absolutely huge. So, where does all of this leave us? What does this all mean for the future of your health? What this all points to is a completely new way of managing our health, and it really breaks down into 3 simple steps. Step 1, monitor. We can actually keep an eye on our internal inflammatory weather using these simple blood markers. Step 2, intervene. We can use powerful lifestyle tools like intermittent fasting to actively calm things down. And step 3, manage. By doing those first 2 things, we can potentially have a real impact on our long-term health, and maybe even change the course of these diseases. At the end of the day, what we're really talking about here is a massive shift in thinking. We're moving away from just reacting to diseases after they show up, the wait for it to break and then try to fix it model. Instead, we're moving toward a proactive future where we can manage the underlying conditions, that silent inflammation, that let these diseases get a foothold in the first place. Which leaves us with one last question to chew on. As we get better and better at decoding these silent signals from our own bodies, could it be that the future of managing chronic disease isn't in some far-off laboratory, but is actually hiding right now in a few drops of your own blood?